Hi guys, Styles here. Just going to do a quick tutorial on airbrushing. We're going to start today with a how to prime airbrushing technique. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to follow along. So here we go. The first thing I'm going to show you my airbrush. I use a Posh Talon. Price for quality, it's definitely top end. It's not the most expensive brush. It's not the cheapest one. I've used it a very long time. It's always done really good by me. There are better airbrushes, but they are more expensive. Second, I use a gravity-fed dual action airbrush. Dual action meaning push down for air, push back for paint. It gives you a lot of detail and a lot of really fine control because you can push down a little bit and you can pull back a little bit and get a little bit of paint, or you can push all the way and all the way and you're going to get a lot of paint. It just makes it very easy. Second, I do not use my handle. I always remove the handle when I'm painting. I just find that it makes it a little bit easier and it's not quite as large. And you can kind of tell my light is very close to where I'm operating right here. So then next, I also do not use the brush guard, the needle guard rather. It's a little more difficult to use it when it's on because you can't see exactly where your needle is and you can't see exactly where you're trying to point the thing. So I find that it's easier to use it without. That being said, you can break and damage your needle very easily this way, so make sure you're being very, very careful. From there, I use this guy. Let me get him a little closer. It's just basically a brush pot. When you're done painting, you just pop your brush in there and spray out the extra. And then it also doubles as a holder when I'm not using it. I think it costs me about $12. Failing that, if you get yourself a gallon of milk, cut a hole in the side of the gallon of milk, and put some cotton balls in the top, you have the same thing for a lot less. But like I said, I use it as a holder as well, and it works very, very well that way. So let's get going. So today we have a prowler. Let me just make sure that he's in the frame. He is. I've given him a base from Sedition Wars, and we are going to get priming. The first thing that we're going to do is I use Vallejo Model Air Surface Primer. It's very easy to use because it's in general it's ready to spray. Depending on your humidity or whatnot, you may need a little extra thinner. But let's get going. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to shake it up really, really well. You want to make sure that your paint is very well shaken because you don't want any separation that will really F up your paint job. So on drop, I usually do about 3 or 4 drops. You can always add more later because it's the same color. It's not like you're blending a special color, so you can always add some more later. And then I'm going to do a little testing. Make sure we have a nice line there, right? And then what we're going to do is, I'm actually left-handed, so we're going to switch hands here. You just go in. And the way I learned to do this was actually painting plastic models. And when you're painting plastic models, you don't want to just blast the thing with a lot of paint. It gets too thick. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay down kind of a thin layer. And you can tell I'm just kind of pulling back just a bit until I get some paint. And then just kind of filling it in a little bit. It's a layers process. I don't do real thick layer. And then one of the other things that you're going to notice is the more often you stop, the more often you just blow air through it, you're going to get a lot of paint on your needle. And what you do is you just rub it on your thing there, nice and clean, and you can go right back to painting. And hopefully you guys can hear me over the sound of my compressor. It's not very loud, but it is in like direct line of sight of the speaker, so I'll try and talk up. So what we're going to do, and now that we've kind of laid down that basic layer, we can come back in a little more and it'll really stick. The paint's really going to start sticking and you're really going to notice the color change here. Try and keep them under the light. We're just going through, filling it in. The nice thing about the airbrush is you can just kind of go to every angle where the spray can is more difficult to do because you end up blasting yourself in the hands or you don't even have your stuff mounted the way I do. And while I'm doing this, let's talk about my mount. My mount is a cork. I got these corks at Michael's. They're very inexpensive. And then a bit of poster tack, which comes in either yellow or orange. It works the same, just different brands. And it's just a sticky clay, so you can stick your model right on there. Makes it fairly easy to do. And that way you're not spraying your hands and you're not touching the figure, which is really important because you don't want to leave finger oil on your miniature. That can make the paint come off easier. And one of the things that we really want to do is make sure that we're keeping our paint on, so we don't have to repaint. I also clean my miniatures using just some dish soap, some hot water, some dish soap, and a toothbrush. Gets all the mold release off. Make sure the paint, once again, is sticking better. Yeah, I think we're about done here. Just look at them real quick. I got a little more underneath here. And we're about good. So now we have a nice black finished up Prowler. I hope you can see him. It's probably kind of difficult to see without the light in front. And now I'm moving the camera. But that is priming in a nutshell. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick cleaning job for your airbrush. So you can tell I still have a lot of paint in here. You can see me painting quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is, if you have a lot of paint left, you can open your bottle and you can just dump it back into your bottle. But yeah, I don't have quite enough to get it to run back out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in, being very careful not to mash my needle on the side of this thing, because even though it's rubber, it will bend your needle. You're just going to crank back and wait for it to sound like an empty cup and a straw, that kind of noise, and that will tell us that we're out of paint. Well, we may have quite a bit of paint. Here we go. I don't know if you can hear that, but it gives that kind of straw sound. When you have that sound, you know that you've gotten most of your paint out. So now I use Badger Aeropaque ready-to-use cleaner. I just had it laying around. It works really good on acrylic paints. You can also use some Windex. Easy to use. Just dump it in. Just dump a little bit in. Now I just fill to where I had paint. Pretty easy to do. And then I get my crummy brush, my crappy like #1 brush that's really old. And you just rub it around in here a little bit, just to get the sides cleaned. Don't try and hit the needle with it. You just get the stuff off the sides. And then what we're going to do is you're going to put your finger here. You're going to pull back. And you hear that? It's bubbling. That's back flushing. What it does is it pushes the air back through the cup and breaks up all the paint that may have been condensing and drying in the needle area. And then you pull it out, and be careful because you will stab your finger on that needle, so you always hit the side of the needle and then pull back and cover, and then let it go before you put the needle out, or you will stab yourself with the needle. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put it back in our cup, empty it out, makes that noise again. We're pretty good here. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back in a little bit and see if I can't get any more of that black out, because black is kind of, see, you can see it's still black, so I'm actually going to give it a little more here. Do a little more back flushing. Now you want to be careful when you're back flushing, and you don't do it too close to your model, because if you do it close to your model, you'll get paint dripping out of the cup at it. But then just do a little bit of this, and you can see how this is becoming more and more clear rather than black. The next thing that we're going to do, now that that's out, we're going to let that kind of shake it a little bit, and you'll see just a little bit of extra liquid come out. You're going to uncork your needle here. Don't take this off. Don't take this off. Just this one. It holds your needle in. Pull your needle out. Always be gentle, very, very gentle with your needles. And you're just going to rub it off, and you're going to see how it had cleaner on it. So it should just come nice and clean. When you have a nice clean needle, you just jam it back in, being very careful not to ram it into anything and bend your needle. all the way through till it pokes out. Close it off, and then make sure you're clean. That's basically how to prime or clean your airbrush in a nutshell. Stay tuned, and the next video I will probably go over how to paint a neat base. Thanks, guys.